Broadcasting live from the Ipnu rivulet on the plain of Amonkhet, this is Tap Tap Concede. Hey everyone, welcome to Tap Tap Concede. I'm Cameron.
And I'm Ben.
And we're here today to rap at you about Magic cards.
Are we actually going to do it as a rap?
No,
or like,
I was just thinking the old,
Oh,
hey kids, we're here to rap with you about drugs.
Do we need to turn these chairs around backwards?
Maybe, yeah, like turn our hats
They're
sideways.
not really conducive to it because they've got like the raised parts, so we're kind of just going to like basically do a crotch.
We're going to give you the straight talk. So this podcast is brought to you by the fine people over at Card Kingdom.
They graciously do this.
Yeah, on purpose for us. They're tremendous folks. CardKingdom.com is a online store and brick and mortar store in Seattle. I at least order most of my singles from them. Their shipping is unreal. Mm-hmm. And if you go to our affiliate page, which is cardkingdom.com/LRR, they will know that we sent you, and that is good for us.
Yeah, it shows that they made the right choice in picking us.
Yeah. Also, if you put in your request field, if you do place an order with them, LoadingReadyRun sent me button, please. You will get one of our buttons. Do you know what the button is this month?
I have no idea. I think it's the Are We Just Dead Here?
I thought that was last month's. Anyways,
you get the mystery button.
Yeah. Who knows?
It could be anything. It could even be a button.
Yeah. Also, this podcast is brought to you by you, our kind viewers over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Your direct support of us makes all of our content possible, and thank you so much. So yeah, Ben and I are going to talk to you today about two of the standard brews that we have each been working on. Mm-hmm. But first off, we're going to roll a die and crack a pack.
Yeah.
Ben, do you want to do the honors?
Sure, let's do it. Bow. It's 18.
Ooh, okay.
Get to go deep in there.
5, 10, 14.
Oh man, I'm excited.
Fate Reforged.
Okay.
Sure,
this could be fun.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
this
this
is
has
really
Yunkin in it, right?
Yeah, this is a really bomby format.
Yeah.
Right? And this pack was given to us by Cullen Scott and the Boxes E-Crew Bears. Mm-hmm. Boxes and Bears Crew. Excuse me, Boxes and Bears Crew.
Well, thank you very much.
So, much appreciated.
I had the worst pulls from this format.
Really?
Yeah.
At GP Vancouver, the year this format came out, I put together a essentially mono blue deck in draft that splashed black for Silumgar.
Yeah.
And I lost in round 1 because I couldn't hit my third land.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, it was unreal. It was so sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have in my, I think I finally just, threw them out, but specifically from Fate Reforged, I had, 9 Temur War Shamans. They're that, it's like a 5 or a 6 drop. Yeah. It's that card that, lets you manifest a whole bunch of stuff. I cannot remember for the life of me what it was. Maybe we can bring it up.
Weird. But
yeah, Temur War Shaman. Maybe it was good in draft. I didn't get to do a ton of limited in that format. Mm-hmm. There it is. Yeah, so it's 4 green for a 4/5, and whenever Temur War Shaman enters the battlefield, you get to manifest the top card of your library.
Right.
And whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, you may have it fight. So it's I guess this might have been really good in. It could have been decent in limited. I didn't get to, like I said.
Yeah, unfortunately, Temur just did not have the support necessary. It had a lot of really, really good cards, but just not enough of them to compete with Abzan.
Right, yeah.
Right,
Abzan was the dominant thing at the
Rhino
time.
kind of shut down a lot of Temur strategies. When you go all in on Knuckleblade and your opponent's 4/5?
It's oh, okay.
Okay,
yeah.
I guess I'll...
Yeah, so I had 6 or 7 of these things sitting in my, just because from pulls of boosters and stuff like that, and they're just I can never get rid of them, but hey, there he is.
Yeah. All right, so first up, we have Aven Skirmisher.
Sweet.
Suntail Hawk, Bird Warrior. It had relevant types. It just was never good.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going blue-white evasion, which was sort of a thing here, you could I mean, it fit the bill, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. Mm-hmm. It just never quite stirred me.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's not exciting by any means.
By contrast, Lotus Path Jin was one of like my preferred cards in this set. I really love this card. Flying Prowess 2/3, Jin Monk for 4 mana. This is what I want my commons to do. This guy would chisel in for a lot of damage over the course of a game.
Yeah.
And was quite capable of shutting down like opposing strategies.
For the exact same mana cost but for a different effect, we've got in Amonkhet right now the Aven Reedstalker.
Yes,
right?
yeah, flash flying for a
Yeah.
2/3.
What would you prefer? I really like Prowess.
Yeah, Prowess is what made Jeskai good was that everything basically had Prowess. And
Yeah.
Prowess is fine when it's on one thing, but when you've got 3 or 4 things triggering Prowess simultaneously, that's when it starts to get actually decent.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I feel like when you're playing blue, you're going to be casting a lot of non-creature spells, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the Prowess feels like it's stronger. That being said, you never want to...
Deceptively, I would actually say that these go into quite different decks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lotus Path Jin is a tempo card, right? You want to be like bouncing your opponent's creatures, tapping them down, chiseling in for 3 or 4, and just eking out incremental advantage. Whereas Reedstalker, I think, goes into a control deck that wants to be using all of its mana every turn, but only on its end step.
Right.
Right. So like you want to have cancel. In a Reedstalker deck, and you want to have Hieroglyphic Illumination.
Yeah, like
not that those aren't cards that you don't want in the tempo deck, but Reedstalker means that if there's nothing to cancel, and you don't need to draw cards, you can play a threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Like essentially, you just never want to play cards on your turn. In
Yeah,
that kind of deck.
yeah. Like the Drago decks are one of my favorites. Next up, we have Sultai Emissary. This guy goes into my Highlander deck.
I love this card.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
both,
too.
both you and I are like big fans of aristocrat strategies and stuff. So.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, Sultai Emissary is a 1-in-black zombie warrior. It is a 1/1. That sounds quite bad. However, it has a line of text that says, when Sultai Emissary dies, manifest the top card of your library. And if you didn't play around it in Fate Reforged, manifest was a one of the signature abilities of the plane Tarkir, which was put that card onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. Turn it face up at any time for its mana cost, if it's a creature card. So you could just like put the top card of your library into play as a 2/2. And if it was a land, if it was a non-creature spell, whatever. But if it was a creature spell, you got to flip it up, and yeah, it felt good.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you could combine this with Scry.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like it's a tough call because I mean, obviously we've got Doom Dissenter right now, which just puts out zombies. Zombies are a little bit more.
Well, they have more synergies.
Yeah, in this format. Manifest has cool. There were some tricky kind of cards you could do. You know, things that are like your face down creatures.
Yeah.
Get +1/+1 or whatever.
Like, this was when I played my Mardu Aristocrats deck in Standard, and manifesting a Butcher of the Horde felt good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty sweet.
Felt good.
Yeah, or
Felt
even just
good.
again like having 2 things to sack out is pretty good. Like if you manifest a land by accident or something like that. It's just yeah. Butcher of the Horde, so real.
Yeah. Oh. Harsh Sustenance. 1 white-black. For an instant, Harsh Sustenance deals X damage to target creature or player, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control. I never made this work.
Yeah.
Was this ever any good?
I mean, again, like I didn't get to play much of the limited format for this, but I mean, if I don't know if there was a lot of going wide strategies.
Yeah,
Like this is clear, like it's clearly like an Abzan card, where you're just kind of sitting back and you're in the dream world. You're having what, like a couple of
like warrior tokens, and like there were things that like made warrior tokens.
yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah, you could put this in your Mardu Beats kind of Mardu token strategy too.
But yeah, I don't remember this ever really getting bigger than like 3 or 4.
Yeah, like
Which isn't worse. Worst.
What was the 1 black like Outlast creature, like honored.
Yeah, the treekin spirit.
Yeah. But I mean, so there was a lot of like little deeds that I guess you could kind of like while you're sitting out there, and then hey, I'll get some extra life off of you, and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, no,
This is not this. I don't think this is where a going wide strategy wants to be. Abzan Sky Captain,
sweet.
3 and a white for a 2/2 flyer. When Abzan Sky Captain dies, bolster 2. Bolster was an ability, the Abzan ability in this, or the Dramoka ability, I guess, where it puts a number of counters on the creature you control with the lowest toughness. So this would put 2 counters on whatever you have with the lowest toughness. It's actually kind of a red ability that works real well with in Eternal formats with on Anaphens, a Treekin Spirit, comboing with Kitchen Finks and Red Cap.
Yeah, yeah. Really, the persist creatures and whatnot. It's pretty nutso.
Yeah. Probably the best common in this set.
Oh yeah.
Goblin Heel Cutter. This was real bad news when this guy came down. This is real bad news. 3 and a red for a Goblin Berserker. He is a 3/2. Whenever Goblin Heel Cutter attacks, target creature can't block this turn.
Yeah.
And it also has Dash, which was the Mardu ability.
I loved Dash.
Yeah, it was neat.
It was really, really fun. I mean, I think one of the most interesting cards that had it to me was the goblin that was like surfing on the dune. I cannot remember its actual name. But it was like a 3/1.
Yeah, I can see the guy now.
Right? And,
yeah.
it cast for a red. Or you could dash it in for red and 1.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, do I need to get that damage in really quickly? Do I need to like lightning strike something, or do I hardcast this and not get to do anything for the turn?
Well, I mean, and this let you dodge sorcery speed removal.
Yeah.
Dash for 2 and a red. You can cast the spell for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste and it's returned from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it just like, it's a peekaboo creature.
Yeah, and with this one, it's great because if you just want to continuously reoccur the effect without having it out on the battlefield and stuff like that, making something not being able to block, it's pretty great for that.
Yeah. Ambush Krotik. I remember this guy, kind of. It's your standard 5 and a 5/5 for 6 green giant insect. It has trample. When Ambush Krotik enters the battlefield, return another creature you control to its owner's hand.
It can be pretty blowouty when you resolve this kind of card, as cards that are 6 mana 5/5s tend to be.
Yeah.
So.
The flicker effect was kind of interesting. I forget what he used it for. There must have been a synergy with this card that I'm completely forgetting.
It's you control.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're putting this into Teamer, there are a couple of cool bounce type
ETB effects.
Yeah. But I mean, this could go into any. You could put this into your Abzan deck if you wanted to.
Yep.
Get some replace some bolster effects and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, true.
So.
All right. Next up, 2 and a red. We got Goreswine. It's a 4/1.
He does exactly what you think he does.
Trade down.
Yeah. I mean, I ran him in pre-release, and sometimes you could at least punch in for 4. So.
Yeah. If you're able to keep the board clear, this guy's going to do a lot of work for you.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who kind of plays like a little bit of burn in Modern, this deck really reminds me, or like cards like this look to me like a Flames of the Blood Hand kind of a thing, where you're like dealing 4 damage to somebody for 3 mana. You hope.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Obviously, strictly way worse and way different. Just that's how I always look at these kind of cards. It's just like, if I get in for 4 for 3 mana, cool. It's like I played a burn spell on somebody.
Yeah. Fair enough. Frontier Mastodon.
Love it.
2 and a green for a 3/2 elephant with Ferocious, which was the Teamer ability. Frontier Mastodon enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. So it's a 4/3 if you have your Goreswine out.
Yeah.
Or the blue elemental.
Yeah, so I guess that would be one of the big reasons for the Goreswine and stuff like that. It's a great ferocious trigger.
Yep. Alesha's Vanguard, 3 and a black for a 3/3 orc warrior with -2. This is -2 black.
Yep.
This is just your standard aggro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't first pick, but if you're in Mardu, this will come around to you, and you might as well pick it.
Yeah. Not even aggro at 4. This is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fruit of the First Tree is our first uncommon. 3 and a green, Enchantment Aura. The artwork might be a bit difficult for the scanner to parse. It enchants a creature. When enchanted creature dies, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is its toughness. Nope.
Yeah.
No.
You put this on your big booty turtle.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
No. No.
No.
Valorous Stance.
Yeah.
1 and a white, instant. Choose one. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, or destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. I remember losing to this card.
Yep, this was one of my. This is actually on a higher list of favorite instants for me, and it's not even. And I'm not even really a white player. But yeah, no, it's such a versatile card where you can either just say no to somebody you get to say no to somebody in 2 different ways. Really.
Yeah.
So, plus
Yeah.
indestructible can be such a blowout when someone's like, you've got like this big giant creature and they're like, cool, I'll penta block you with all these things, and then you're like, nope.
Way to wrath yourself, idiot.
So yeah, great card.
Yeah. Winds of Calcisma.
Yeah. Oh man,
Ben.
I love this card so
History's
much.
greatest monster.
Turbo Fog.
Oh.
This was great. The two mana fog effects was exactly where you wanted to be. This was in my Sphinx's tutelage deck at the time.
Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn.
Bueno.
Ferocious. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control. I mean, it's a good fog.
Yeah.
If such things exist.
For those fog decks that run all those
Like
creatures.
14 fogs, yeah. Oh, yeah. So that, exactly.
The weird ferocious trigger.
Yeah, so in your Turbo Fog deck, all your Gore Swine are really paying out.
Yeah. See? I loved this card.
A rare? Archfiend of Depravity.
All right.
3 black for a 5/4 demon. Flies. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player chooses up to 2 creatures he or she controls, then sacrifices the rest. Hey, Ben, you know how easy it was to completely goozle yourself with this in Mitgo?
Yeah, very.
Yeah. Click on the wrong thing? Crap. Because I think it was like the ability went on the stack, and then it asked you to choose 2 creatures, but didn't tell you what it was.
If it was to
sacrifice or to
them
save? Yeah.
Because it's the up to thing that makes it a little janky.
Oh.
But at the end of the day, too, if you're like, this is a good card. I would probably first pick this. It's a 5/4 flyer for 5. So
yeah, that's pretty good. It also has some other text on it.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's hard to argue with. Pretty straightforward, apart from the Mitgo nonsense that happened with this.
Yes, yeah.
Then our land in the pack is a Windscarred Crag. Because Fate Reforged didn't have basics, it had these duals. Lots of support for multicolor in this set.
I mean, when they're really forcing the wedges and whatnot, it's pretty crucial. So it was really cool of Wizards to do that.
Yeah. And then our Manifest token.
There we go.
I don't know
Goes
if that will show
nicely
up
with our Sultai Emissary.
Yeah.
It's always nice when you have those cards that specifically require tokens, and the token is in there with it.
Yeah, that feels good.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Is like I know it's all randomized and like they don't have any control in that, but it's like especially when it's like the rare in the pack that is like if you have a Regal Caracal as your rare in the pack,
and there are no cats.
One one cat,
come on,
the one of the lifelink cat.
Help us out here.
That's where it just says like screw you and gives you the token for like adorned pouncer or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's kind of like a cat. It's kind of like a cat, I guess. Monsters.
All right, so there was our Crack-a-Pack.
Yeah. Once again, big thanks to to Colin, Scott, and the rest of the Bears and Boxes and Bears crew. All right, so Ben.
Yes.
I understand new standard season is beginning.
It is, and it is actually the most excited I've been for standard in a while.
Oh, do go on.
The most recent tournament, the first big tournament that went on for Hour of Devastation, I cannot remember where it was. I'm completely blanking on it. I'm sure I could look it up. Of the top 8, there were 7 decks. Only
Fresh.
one of them was repeating.
Fresh.
So it was super, super exciting to see that. And I believe the repeating deck was obviously Teamer Energy. But even Teamer Energy has added a couple cool spicy things.
Okay.
Like things like they're now running like Appetite of Destruction. The weird one with the monkey eating the artifact from Kaladesh.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah, because artifacts are so heavy right now, especially
Yeah,
things
okay.
like Torrential Gear Hulk and whatnot.
Yeah.
Also deals with enchantment matters. So
Right.
for those of folks who are running mill strategies and putting Fraying Sanity down, you get to get rid of those enchantments and gain 2 life off of it. But the coolest one that is making a lot of bounds for me that I'm seeing is Champion of Wits. So this is the, it's a 3 mana drop. Yes, right here. It's 2 and a blue for a 2/1. When Champion of Wits enters the battlefield, you may draw cards equal to its power. If you do, discard 2 cards. So it comes out like that.
Right.
But then you eternalize it later, and you get to draw 4, discard 2.
Right.
And you have a 4/4. And I believe one of the top teamer decks was running a 2 of this. It's just a really sweet way to fill your hand back up. And,
okay.
It's super interesting. It's a brave new world, man.
Yeah,
I'm super
I would
stoked
not
for
have
it.
seen that one coming, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so.
But I'm glad to see that is putting in work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did you want to start talking about your thing, or?
I think I'd rather let you start, since you have a more complete idea
Sure,
of your
okay.
deck and have more experience with it.
Sure. Okay. So I streamed this build and whatnot the other day on my stream channel, where we kind of brewed a mill strategy because I am all about the alternate win cons. That is like my favorite thing. So I was one of those people that saw Fraying Sanity and got really, really hyped for it. So for those of you who don't know, I guess we could just bring up the centerpiece of this deck, Fraying Sanity. So it is 2 and a blue for a enchantment curse, enchant target player. At the beginning of each end step, enchanted player puts the top X cards of his or her library into their graveyard, where X is the number of cards put into the graveyard from anywhere this turn. So at first, you look at this card and you go, wow, this is obviously the mill card kind of a thing.
Right.
But this thing just hoses a lot of stuff just on its own. People playing, like you play a spell that goes into, like a non-creature spell that goes to the graveyard after, and you're cursed with this, you just mill one.
Yeah, well, this must really hose, control players.
Yeah.
Who are playing 4 spells a turn.
Yeah, it's
Right.
super, super cool. Cycling decks, there is a lot of aggro strategies, that are running things like Blood Rage Minotaur.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like the 4/3 for 2 that makes you discard a card.
Right.
So now they're discarding something and then also milling something. And this is the price for their Minotaur. Granted, discarding 1 and milling 1 for a 4/3 on turn 2 is not the worst in the world.
Yeah, but it adds a cost to those things.
Yeah. So this is a mill strategy, and let's dive right into it. I'm gonna go nice and slow, so we can make sure that you guys see all the cards. So first up, we've got a playset of Anticipate, because it's all about digging, and this is also just a terrific card for digging for stuff. So it's 1 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This finds what you need, because obviously you want to be digging for those Fraying Sanities. I guess the best thing, actually, I should preface this before we're really diving in. Consider this more of a control strategy that mills you, that mills your opponent. You're not trying to mill them out as fast as you can.
Right.
You kind of combo.
Right. This
in a way.
this isn't Grindstone Mill or Mind Crank Mill.
Yeah, this
Right.
is like you're making sure you always have like the upper hand, like
Haterstone Mill. Sorry.
Yeah, like if you're going up against a control deck, you're on turn 3 and you've got that Fraying Sanity you want to play, but you notice that your opponent has maybe 2 mana up to like censor you. You don't need to play it. You sit back and you relax and you just play the control game and then force them out. So anyways, yes, Anticipate, digging for stuff. It's really, really great. Up next, we got a playset of Censor, like I was just saying. Censor spelled C-E-N-S-O-R. For 1 and a blue, counter target spell unless its opponent pays 1, and it's got cycling. So this is great against those aggro strategies early game, especially if you're on the play. This is a huge tempo play against somebody, and then later on in the game when you don't need it, you cycle it so you can dig for stuff. Probably one of the most used counterspells in the format right now. It's just super versatile, especially for control decks that are running this. This gives you the upper hand in the early game. So yeah, just not a lot to say about Censor. It's Censor. Up next, we've got a playset of Compelling Argument. It's our first mill card. This is the one that I'm kind of the most about, but that like I could probably swap out for something a bit more like control spelly. But it's a mill deck. I would be wrong to not be running this. So we've got Compelling Arguments. 1 in a blue. Target player puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. Cycles for 1 blue if you don't need it. I find myself cycling this early game if I've got it in hand, and then late game. If you've got a Fraying Sanity out, you're milling somebody for 10 instead of 5. There are a lot of strategies out there that are going to be running specific card hate through things like Lost Legacy. So if they're getting rid of your big beat, which I will talk about later, you still need your win con, right? So this will slowly get you there, and especially in those games where they're spending their mana to try and hate out some of your stuff, and it gets into grindy. Just milling them for 5 a turn will get you there. I have won a game where both all of my Startled Awake and all my Fraying Sanity have been exiled through things like Compelling Argument. So it's resilient. She's resilient.
That's a compelling argument, actually.
All right, we've got 2 copies of Essence Scatter. This used to be Dispel. However, I am really seeing that this format is a lot more creature focused.
Right.
I thought it was going to be a lot more control-y than I was normally seeing. So that's why I was running Dispel. However, I think you're just more afraid of running into the creatures.
Well, really. Even the control deck, you need to have an answer for Gear Hulk.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So, this stops a lot of the scary things in the format. Gear Hulks. Glory Bringers, actually probably the best one to use this against is Bristling Hydra, because once that thing's on the board...
Yeah, you're in deep trouble.
I hate Bristling Hydra almost more than I hate Glory Bringer. Bristling Hydra is just like... It's so easy. It's 2 green for a 4/3. When it enters, you get 3 energy, and you could spend 3 energy to give it 1/1 and hexproof.
Hey, do you have 3 removal spells in hand?
Yeah, like you're gonna need it because Teamer Energy just makes so much energy. So Essence Scatter is really great to have in your opener, especially if you're against that Teamer Energy strategy, because if they're putting Servant of the Conduit down on turn 3, you better believe here comes Bristling Hydra turn 3. So you're going to want to keep your mana open so you can Essence Scatter that bad boy. All right. Up next, we've got 3 copies of Winds of Rebuke. So this one is an interesting one. I mean, on the surface, you look at it and you're like, cool, it's a bounce spell that mills, so it has synergy with the deck. It's tough because, sometimes you might mill a card you really, really need.
Right.
That being said, because we've got things in here like Anticipate, and later on we'll talk about Supreme Will, you have a really good way of filtering your top deck. So you know what's going on, and you can really control what's going on. So winsing something and milling someone and milling yourself can be not as big of a deal against you. But the biggest thing about this one is its non-land permanence. There's a lot of planeswalkers in this format right now. Things like Liliana or...
Gideon. Is Gideon still around?
Yep, Gideon's still around. Actually, the 2 big ones that can be quite annoying to deal with is the new Liliana. I cannot remember which Liliana...
of the Liliana Death's Servant?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that it? Yeah. The one with the amazing art.
Yeah, it's so good. Or Obnixilis. Both of them really, really scary.
I'm glad to see Obnixilis actually seeing some play, because I always thought that was a really good card.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, Death's Majesty. There we go.
Yeah.
This thing actually, this card is actually a very scary card against this deck, because you mill them out, you are essentially giving them the options of like the things that they can return from their graveyard.
Yeah, you're drawing them cards, aren't you?
So it's a difficult card. So this one deals with that. Another really big one, Chandra, the different Chandras and whatnot in the format. Those are really, really annoying. Especially Chandra, the mind sculptor. As we like to call her.
Chandra, the Kaladesh Chandra.
Yeah, Torch of Defiance.
Yeah.
Man, Beej, you were kicking ass.
Yeah.
Damn, buddy. Yeah, it's Chandra, Torch of Defiance.
Give it up for Beej on the board.
On
over
the board,
here.
yeah.
It's his first time being on the board, and he's Johnny on the spot with the cards.
You thought it was Paul, but no, it was Beej all along. But yeah, this one, I mean, we've got ways of dealing with Planeswalkers in here, but this is just a really good way of bouncing stuff out of here. Also, with the amount of token strategies, bounce spells are also kill spells.
Yeah, yeah. So against that Naga we saw earlier.
Yeah. These 4/4 eternalized creatures, you just go, nope. And they don't even get it back. It's just dead, right? So, So bounce spells can be pretty real.
7 mana to draw 4 cards is still fairly good. But it's not, no longer has this 4/4 body.
Yeah. Now we got the realest card of this format, in my opinion. We've got a 3 of a Braid.
Yeah. Look for foil of Braids.
Yes, this is where the money is at, friends. This card is going to be, I think this card's going to go really far in a lot of different formats. This probably might make its way into Modern if it hasn't already.
Speaking of Gear Hulks being a win con for certain decks.
Yeah.
A Braid, like, I think if you're running Gear Hulks and you see a Braid coming down, your best hope in mid-go is that they click on the wrong mode.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise you're just... No.
This card is so good. It's 1 in a red for an instant. Choose one of the modes. Abrupt deals 3 damage to target creature or destroys target artifact. This is your early game kill spell, or
gets rid of Tower, gets rid of Gear Hulks, gets rid of Hearts of Kirin.
Yeah, Hearts of Kirin, Walking Ballista, Verduous Gear, like all the Gear Hulks, really. It's such a good card for this format. It's why I can see, like, specifically because of this, things like Is It Control relying on Gear Hulks, or even things like Mardu, Vroom Vrooms, not going to make it, I don't think. And yeah, so that's all of our 2-ofs. It's a lot of 2-ofs, or 2-drops. That's mostly where we're sitting. Up next, we talked about it earlier, 4 copies of Fraying Sanity. This is obviously your main thing. We already talked about this card.
Gorgeous artwork.
Yeah, so good. Best thing about this that a lot of people were asking me while we were building this, yes, the effects are, you can stack them in the way, right? So you mill for 5, and you've got 2 Fraying Sanities out. The first Fraying Sanity will mill for another 5.
Right,
the
and the second one will mill for 10. Right.
So you can stack these, and having multiple ones of them out are great.
Holy poops.
Yeah, so you can go really fast, and for those of you wondering, how fast can this deck win? I have one on turn 5 with this. So it can be pretty real. So
okay.
Okay. Yes, that's what the mill players want to hear. Now I used to have a playset of these, but I think I moved down for specific reasons. I got 2 copies of Supreme Will.
I was going to ask if you were running this, because I like this card a lot.
Yeah, it's super versatile. It's 2 in a blue. Choose one of the modes. Counter target spell unless its opponent pays 3. Or it's got that impulse effect. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest in your bottom of your library. So this is another sifting card. I used to run 4 of these. In the end, I just felt like Anticipate was enough for that. The sifting effect, and you've got things like Censor and Essence Scatter and a bunch of other stuff in the sideboard. So if you're specifically running this for a counterspell, a 3-mana counterspell with a way that they could still get around it was not as powerful as I wanted it to be. Still a super strong card. If you feel better about this card, totally run 4 of. I just felt like there were some better slots that I could give away.
No, absolutely. Like the charms, like the modal cards like this, are always the ones that you seem to sideboard out first.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can always go for something more specific that's either does the job better or does the job cheaper.
Yeah, so like in the main board, this thing is great, right? Like because you can figure out what they're doing. And again, too, late game, you pick this up, maybe you just need that one last compelling argument, and you need to sift in really quick. It's great for that. So Actually, I'll skip ahead to the one that maybe if you want to, you can sideboard out, or you can take out and run your 4 of a Supreme Will. I've got 2 copies of Fevered Visions.
Well, this is your pet card.
This is
like four sets now.
Yes, I've loved Fevered Visions since this card was printed. It's 1 blue and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player draws a card. If that player is your opponent and it has 4 or more cards in hand, Fevered Vision deals 2 damage to him or her. So this card it's shockingly real. It's an alternate win con against a control matchup. Where,
if they're keeping their hand full, this punishes them so much.
Yep. And it also really helps you drawing into things like your win cons and whatnot. This deck has a tendency to get your, because I mean, coming onto the later games, you do have a tendency to get rid of your hand fairly quickly when you're comboing off, getting rid of like your mill cards and all that kind of jazz. So filling up your hand, really, really cool. And it's very easy to sideboard out, but this card does a shocking amount of work. And also, because people are drawing cards, your opponents are drawing cards, you are still getting stuff off of their deck, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, super real. And sometimes too, if they really are being stingy, you're forcing them to discard at the end of your step 2, which fuel. No, I guess that's on the cleanup step, so it doesn't fuel Fraying Sanity, but still very, very cool. So yeah, but that's the card. If you aren't feeling it like I am, you can maybe run 4 Supreme Will.
Right.
I do recommend it though. I've had a lot of really good success with this. We're running 3 copies of Sweltering Suns. This is your early game oh shit moment.
Yeah, well, you had mentioned that there are red aggro decks in the format now.
It is, yeah, super real. People running things like
Carry Zev?
Yeah, Carry Zev, that new Earthshaker Kenra?
Yeah. The one that comes with the falter effect.
Yeah, the vampire that gives other vampires madness.
Right.
But I don't even think this deck runs more than that as a vampire. It's just a 2/1 for 1.
Yeah.
The 1-drop 1/1 vampire with haste, or werewolf with haste, like scavenger or scrap heap scavenger, like these low to the ground creatures. So this board wipes them, and it's good. Difficult because this is one of the most aggravating aggro strategy or aggro metas right now, because as a control player you can get rid of everything, but all this eternalize and return from the graveyard shit is just like...
Scrounger is a real hard card to deal with.
I hate it's a tough card to deal with. I don't want to throw the hate around too much, but yeah, there's a lot of really hard cards to deal with. You know, and Earthshaker Kenra later comes back as a 4/4 that also does a falter effect and with haste and stuff. So, but that being said, this will get you through the early games against those aggro strategies. Late game, if you don't need it, you can cycle it so you can dig for something you do need. Great card. Definitely run 3 of this. The only thing in our 4-drop slot, the card that everybody's been waiting for, Startled Awake.
Oh, it's so good.
I will be sad to lose this card come rotation, but...
It's so good. I love this card. I love its artwork. I love its effect.
I never realized until really looking at it, but the whole it's actually a very sad card.
Yeah,
it's like the mother about her
dead child. Yeah,
it's super creepy. But yeah, it's 2 in blue for a sorcery. Target opponent puts the top 13 cards of his or her library into the graveyard, so it's a 13 mill. You have Fraying Sanity on the board. That is a 26 card mill.
Yep.
And then
with
you can
two Fraying Sanities. That's a 1-shot.
Yep. So that's what I mean. So yeah, on turn, your quick way of winning, let's say, if because you want to play this game as a control strategy, right? But if you have 4 lands in hand, a Fraying Sanity and 2 Startled Awakes, or 2 Fraying Sanities and a Startled Awake, keep it. You win on turn 5 if they don't stop you, because on the turn 3 you play Fraying Sanity, turn 4 you Startled Awake them for 26, turn 5 you Startled Awake them for another 26.
Right.
You've now milled them for 52 and you win.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, have they drawn a card? Bad move, brother. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. And then it has the added effect, even if somebody counters this, to Persistent Nightmare. So for 5 or for 3 in a blue, you can put it transformed into Persistent Nightmare onto the battlefield only as a sorcery, which is sad, but still very, very good. And comes out as a 1/1 with Skulk, and when it deals damage to your opponent, you get to bring it back and Startle Awake them again.
Yeah. Oh, it's good.
The flavor of this card, the everything about this card is so good.
Yeah.
I love it. It's
it's
amazing.
I like this a lot. I forgot how Startled Awake worked.
Yeah.
But this is sweet.
Yeah, and it's really neat too because once your opponent figures out what you're doing and they've got something like Lost Legacy or something like that going on, they're going to be like, okay, I need to get rid of that. And if you've played Startled Awake and it's in the graveyard, and they get rid of all your other Startled Awakes through Lost Legacy, you still get to use that one Startled Awake for the rest of the game, provided that because you just recur it, bring it back to your hand, and you can still make it work with this one thing. It's a very versatile sorcery.
Yeah, well, it's inevitable.
Yeah, it's a weird
right?
it's a weird thing to say, but yeah, this sorcery got legs. It doesn't go away. So
yeah. Oh, that's extra awful from flavor perspective because she's
trying to make it stop, and even going to the Lost Legacy Therapy Center.
Still can't get it. She's been ringed by this thing.
Yeah. So love this card. And then finally, the last spell in the deck, we've got 2 copies of Hour of Devastation.
Ooh.
Because it wouldn't be an Hour of Devastation standard without me playing this card.
Yeah. Oh, you said the name of the thing that's in the title.
That you just win at that point. You resolve it. And sometimes if you play this card, you might just win anyways. It's 3 red for a sorcery. All creatures lose indestructible until end of turn, and Hour of Devastation deals 5 damage to each creature and each non-bolus planeswalker.
Yep.
So if they happen to have resolved a planeswalker, this is a way to get rid of it if you don't have Winds of Rebuke and actually kill it. This kills gods because the new
removes indestructible.
Yeah. This actually one of my favorite parts about this card. One of the big cards that a lot of aggro white strategies run is Selfless Spirit, which gives everything indestructible. You play this, they go, oh.
Yeah.
They just weep endlessly.
Yeah. They're like, sacrifice Selfless Spirit and
Yeah. So
Dang it.
Hour of Devastation, such a good card.
Yeah.
It's super huge. We were talking about that aggro red strategy. It runs Hazoret and stuff. So dealing with Hazoret can be really difficult. This is a way to do it. And if you're running, this card actually is even one of the ones that you can keep if you're against the control strategy that's running no creatures, because
it domes out their planeswalkers.
Yeah, it's super huge, which actually, forgot to mention, thank you for saying don't, Fevered Visions also deals with planeswalkers.
Oh, because it deals damage, it's not life loss.
Yeah, so...
Hence the red, the red, yeah.
So, that's what I mean, right? Like, Fevered Vision seems so weird in this, but it just does so much.
Yeah, but when it's keeping, Liliana or Gideon out of the game.
Yeah, it's super real. So that's the spells. I love this list. I tinkered around with it a lot. It's a lot of fun. We have a couple more little tiny spicy things in the lands, and then we'll also talk about the sideboard really quickly. So we're running 4 copies of Ipnu Rivulet. Pretty obvious why. This is the mill land.
Yeah, it's also non-intractable. Lost Legacy can't hit this at all.
Yeah, no.
Right, so...
Ipnu spelled IPNU. Yeah, you got it, man. And one of the deserts that doesn't come out tapped, so you can still use this. And there are a number of times where sometimes you might just get stuck with this being as your blue land for a little while, doming yourself for 1 whenever you need it.
Yeah, we played the Pain lands for years.
Yeah, so Ipnu Rivulet can either be colorless or ping yourself for 1 for a blue, or for 1 and a blue, you can and tap it. You can sack a desert, and target opponent mills the top 4 cards. This is a great way of milling your opponent. A really good thing about this is it dodges counter spells. So if it's out and Frank's Sanity's out, they're milling 8 no matter what they do, unless they have some way to get rid of your enchantment, right? So super good, especially late game, really good. I'm running, I should actually count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 islands. There we go. We don't really need to talk about islands. And then I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mountains.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, basic land choice.
I mean, on here, I just went with the Amonkhet full art kind of ones. That being said, if I had a choice of lands,
this is my pet question for people. It's like, what basics you run?
I went up against an opponent who was running the. They were playing a Nazorius Eternalize deck.
Yeah.
It was really neat. but they were running all the Dragons of Tarkir lands and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
And they were very, very cool. I like kind of never really paid attention to them.
Right. Did they have like the Stormy Islands from the Ojutai?
Yeah, I think like, but I mean, if you're running islands, one of my favorite islands is the Cup Islands from Zendikar.
Everyone loves the Cup Islands. They never resonated with me.
Yeah.
I always like the Veronique Mignot cliff face with the Hedron like falling off of it.
Yeah. Like I think they're all really, really cool. Actually, my favorite ones from Amonkhet are the shoot. I wonder if I'm running and I can see the.
Sorry, I've completely derailed.
No. I love talking about this kind of stuff. Like art's a really big deal. It's like the standard one from Amonkhet. It's like red. It's the islands. It's a red cliff kind of a thing.
Is it the one with the like bright blue rivers running down?
Okay, I cannot remember what it is. But you're just kind of cycling through them.
Nope.
No.
It's the last one. It's always the last one.
That one.
Yep.
I really, really like this one. It's so vibrant, like the colors and stuff. I'd recommend that. Okay, and what I will say is the only reason I'm not doing it in here is because I couldn't afford them, because this is the most expensive card in the deck. I'm running 2 copies of Wandering Fumarole. If you can get a play set, run that and take out like maybe an island and a mountain for it.
Okay.
Wandering Fumarole, big deal card. Enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap for a red or a blue. And for 4 mana, you can turn it into a 1/4 man land that for 0 mana, you can switch its toughness to make it beefier or more tough. This is a great alternate win con. And we'll talk a little bit more. I feel like you're going to talk about like Fatal Push a little bit.
We talked about this a bit before the show.
Yeah.
I've been worried about running Manlands because of the existence of Fatal Push, which just kills them.
Yeah, I mean, this card is, it's hard to get around. That being said,
but yeah, you had a really valid point.
Yeah, we'll talk about the sideboard, and that really comes into play here. But as you can see from the actual board itself, in the main board, we are running 0 creatures besides these Manlands. So there's a very good chance that they will sideboard out all their removal. But we'll talk about that more in a sec. We're running 4 copies of Spirebluff Canal.
Sure are.
Yep. It's just,
it's what you do.
It's your dual land.
Yep.
And you get this out early and it comes out untapped. So, it does exactly what you want to. And then my spicy little tech here, we're running 1 copy of Scavenger Grounds. So this one is up for debate for a lot of people. People wonder if should you be running Scavenger Grounds or should you be running Crook of Condemnation. And these are the like exile things from the graveyard kind of card, right?
I'm with you on Scavenger Grounds. Crook of Condemnation seems agonizingly slow.
Yeah, the big thing about this one is it's a land that you're playing for free. Like Tormod's Crypt is kind of like the big one to think about on this. You can still tap it for mana, and then you can sack it to exile all cards, which is so huge against like the decks we were talking about with Scrap Heap Scavenger, or any of these like recursion strategies. But a really, really cool one. Yeah, and Crook of Condemnation, it's a 2 mana artifact. So first you play it for 2, and then you do it for 1. So in total you're spending 3 mana. So this is actually a net gain in a lot of ways. It's a strict upgrade in my opinion for Scavenger Grounds. But the other kind of cool synergy this has is if you decide you really don't need to exile those cards, you can use your Ipnu Rivulet to sacrifice the Scavenger Grounds and keep it up and kind of get 2 procs out of it. So, super useful. This used to just sit in my sideboard, but I'm just like, meh, you know what? I'll put 1 in here, and then we've got more in the sideboard just in case. So, so that is the main deck.
Yeah.
I
like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's fun. It used to start more on the just like we're just gonna mill them as fast as we can, and now and then it turned into more of a no, we need to actually play a game of Magic and then do our cool things. So
sorry, Crook of Condemnation isn't slow. What I meant is that it's occupying a spell slot.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Scavenger Grounds at least taps for mana.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, yeah.
There it was probably one of so I was brewing a lot of this on stream, And it was probably the most debated one of all of it, was do we run Scavenger Grounds or do we run Crook?
I can definitely see the debate. I have an opinion.
Yeah, I'm on Team Scavenger Grounds. All right, let's quickly go through the sideboard, and then we can let Cam talk about his cool deck. Well, I mean, we want to talk about things. So, all right, starting off, we've got 2 copies of Ceremonious Rejection. Necessary, artifacts, colorless spells, deals with a lot of the things in the format right now. It is just a cantrip for a blue, instant, counter target, colorless spell. You are stopping the Gear Hulk, or no, not Gear Hulks, because those are colored.
But you're stopping Walking Ballista. You're stopping Scavenger.
Yeah,
Scrap Heap Scavenger.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah. We should get Missy in here to
deal with it. And it also stops a couple of the scarier Eldrazi in the format. Things like World Breaker and Ulamog still get played in team or ramp strategies. So.
Yeah, I heard there's like a mono red Eldrazi list floating around out there.
Oh, okay.
That runs like Thought Not Seer and the Trampley 5/5.
Yeah. Well, there's
because the Red Desert is a dual land for that deck.
There is definitely a resurgence in Teamer Emerge right now.
Ooh, that list was always spicy.
Yeah, so, stopping... I mean, it's really hard to completely get all the value out of it, but stopping your opponent's Elder Deep Fiend from actually hitting the board is quite nice. They'll still get the tap effect and whatnot on your stuff, but at least you don't have to deal with a 5/6.
It turns it into like a 1.5 for 1.
Yeah, and then, stopping Thought Not Seer, or the card that I was most surprised, I mean, you obviously run it, was... not Thought Not Seer, the smaller one, the one that when it dies you get to. Matter Reshaper.
Matter Reshaper, yeah.
Yeah,
Matter Reshaper's getting played.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, that's pretty fresh. I like that a lot.
Straight value in Emerge, right? Like.
I think I had this idea for a scale for this show where it was just a loop.
Yeah.
Where one side is labeled dank and the other side is labeled fresh.
Yeah.
And we're just like, this is about a 3 o'clock between...
On the Danko fresh meter.
Yeah, because they actually like loop around and meet.
But yeah, no, Teamer Emerge, very, very cool. So you definitely want some Ceremonious Rejection in there. A lot of colorless spells in this format. Maybe we might board that out once Zendikar and stuff rotates. I don't know how much more of artifacts we'll see in this new format.
Well, we got until September.
Yeah.
Or October, I
guess.
I
mean, a lot. Part of this deck rotates too, so keep that in mind. We're running 2 copies of Negate because it's Negate, and you put that in your sideboard if you're blue.
Yep. And then you get people calling judges on you saying that you didn't sideboard out.
Yeah, right. Like, don't put this in your main board, or someone will make a judge call on you and slow down your game, and then you'll go to time.
Yep.
But yeah, Negate against the control strategy, obviously necessary. Board out your Essence Scatters or something. Swap-a-roo, whatever you need. Now, you remember when we talked about us running no creatures?
Yes.
And so they're like, oh, there's no creatures, we're going to get rid of our kill spells. We're running 3 copies of Thing and Ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like the biggest, like, what's up card to bring in from your sideboard, where they're just like they're like, okay, all right, I just have to control them out. And then you play this on turn 2 and they go, buh? After all of that, after all their thinking and stuff like that, yeah. Thing and Ice, great. You're casting nothing but instants and sorceries and stuff like that. And, if things get out of hand and whatnot, you're wiping their board.
Yep.
So
I love this card.
Yeah.
I love Thing and Ice.
Yep. It's a really cool thing, too, is the way you can stack things. If, this is on its last counter... sorry, I guess I should actually talk about it for the audio people. It's 1 and a blue for a 0/4 defender. Thing and Ice comes into the battlefield with 4 ice counters on it. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, remove a counter from Thing and Ice. If there are no counters on it, transform it. And it turns into a Woken Horror, which is a 7/8, and when it flips over, you return all non-horror creatures to their opponent's hands. You can... still, if this is on its last counter, you can still cast Hour of Devastation and actually wipe their board, and then
flip it
and it doesn't die.
Nice.
So,
nice.
So yeah, I mean, you're kind of like...
I always forget about the non-horror clause on this.
Yeah.
I love how everyone's like, run away, and then the other horror on the table is like, hey, Altros, what's up?
Yeah, sup? And just
I thought you moved away.
So yeah, this is a little sneaky thing. Also, alternate win con for yourself. Hitting them for 7 is pretty real. Wish this thing had trample. Really sad that this thing can get blocked by a 1/1 warrior with vigilance. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
We got 2 copies of Disallow. Again, more dealing with the control strategies, more dealing with these enter the battlefield effects. If you're against, like, say, team or ramp, they're casting Ulamog and stuff like that, you know, maybe you can let them resolve. I don't know. Like, maybe that's a bad example, but there's a lot of activated abilities, planeswalker kind of things, stuff like that. This kind of is a be-all, end-all cancel.
Yeah, when you have to say no.
Yeah.
You have the option to say no.
Adjusted to your meta, maybe something better than disallow might be something like summary dismissal. If you're if people are running a lot of like these crazy enter the battlefield kind of things, summary dismissal just kind of wipes the whole slate clean.
Yep.
I have played this when someone has resolved an Ulamog, and hot damn does it feel good.
Oh, that's got to feel amazing.
So yeah, scooting on along, we're running 2 copies. I never thought I would say this because I was so about this cycle. 2 copies of Chandra's Defeat.
Sometimes you gotta do,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Hi, Glorybringer. I
Yeah.
hate you.
yeah, it's just,
Is basically what this card is. Like,
yeah.
Also deals with Chandra. There's a lot of, and again, a lot of the mono red aggro kind of stuff. I'd say that your biggest worry is the red card. So Chandra's Defeat, a very, very big deal for this. Like I said, specifically for Glorybringer. So yeah.
Where did it go?
Your sneeze disappeared.
You
okay?
It's inside me now.
This is where the sneeze lives.
Yeah, like the feel when you just stifle a sneeze and there's just like all of a sudden a bulge on the side of your skull.
Name your tumor. All right. Yeah. So 2 copies of Chandra's Defeat. We got two last spells. We're running 3 copies of Magma Spray.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is your Scrap Heap Scavenger hate. This is your anything with Eternalize hate, like Champion of Wits, or the Embalm hate. You need to exile things. There's a lot of things that can come back from the graveyard. This is a really scary thing to deal with. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your hair a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
You look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, Magma Spray. It's a red for an instant. Deal target 2 damage to target creature. If it
Right.
dies, you exile it. So,
Okay.
So so Scrap Heap Scavenger. All these 2 or less toughness creatures that you just don't want coming back from the graveyard. You're playing this. And then finally, last we're just running 1 more Scavenger Grounds in case we really need to deal with that graveyard hate kind of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, that's the whole thing. So
And you went 4-1 in
I went
competitive.
4-1 with this in competitive Midco League. So give it a shot. I really urge you to again sort of think of this as a control combo in a way. You know, like there are games where you're gonna just kind of slowly drain away at them with like things like compelling argument and stuff like that. But if you've got a hand that's like nothing but control spells and maybe like an anticipate or something like that in there, keep that and just kind of get to your Frank Sanity and your Startled Awakes because you don't need to win fast if you're controlling the game, and you've got more than enough tools in the deck to control the flow of the game.
All right.
Yeah, bing.
Nice.
Ben seal of approval.
So yeah, no, that's exciting. Creatureless decks have always been kind of one of my pets. I love the concept of just like the alternate win con.
Yeah, and I mean, even like your Manland, your Wandering Funeral blocks a lot of the scary stuff that might be coming at you too. So
Okay.
yeah.
Dang.
Did you want to talk about your little brew?
It's very much a little brew right now because I have not completed it yet, but it is based around a card that I desperately wanted to play with, and because I like it a lot, Nimble Obstructionist.
Stifle Bird.
Stifle Burb. It's a 2 and a blue for a 3/1 flyer with flash and cycling. Flash, flying, and cycling for 2 and a blue. But when you cycle it, you stifle something. You counter a target activated or triggered ability you don't control. So this seems really good. It's not Vendilion Clique, but it fills not even a similar role. It's kind of like Vendilion Clique, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like Vendilion Clique in the way that you're getting a 3/1 for 2. Or
Yeah,
for 3.
for 3, yeah.
That has flash and fly.
Yeah.
But does a different thing.
Yeah, and then because, I decided to build around Nimble Obstructionist, I put in Drakehaven, 4 of Drakehaven,
Yeah.
which you will be familiar with from the last time we did a brewing podcast.
Yeah, this is like one of my favorite things we do.
Yeah.
It's where you and I just talk about brews and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
like
Standard.
so Drakehaven, 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1 colorless, 1 generic, and if you do, make a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Okay. So where do we go with this? Abandoned Sarcophagus
This
from
card is
Hour of Devastation. It's so not Yogg's Will.
I want this
What?
card. I want this to work.
Yeah,
so
I
badly.
desperately want this to work, and I think this is the wrong shell for it. Because, okay, Abandoned Sarcophagus, another 3 mana, do nothing thing. It's an artifact this time, though. However, you may cast non-land cards with cycling from your graveyard. If a card with cycling would be put into your graveyard from anywhere and it wasn't exiled or wasn't cycled, exile it instead. So you don't put this on the battlefield until you've basically like run out of cycling things in your graveyard and need to start, or run out of cycling things in your library and you need to start running them back. But I mean, just the ability to play like, well, what are the cycling cards I have? Hieroglyphic Illumination for card advantage.
Yeah.
The armrest.
Right, we've got card recognizing technology.
Yeah. So most these are from Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation. Sensor.
Yep. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah, totally good. Force Spike is good. Countervailing Winds.
Okay. Yeah. Specifically, I guess, specifically because it's got the cycling and whatnot on it. It's
So, like, being able to, like, for the low cost of 5 mana, you can cycle Countervailing Winds, draw a card, and then if you've got Abandoned Sarcophagus, you can counter a spell with it.
Yeah. No, it's super cool. And I mean,
Yeah.
your graveyard is certainly going to be full in this deck. For
absolutely. And the card that I'm not putting in this, even though I think it's might be correct, is New Perspectives.
Sure. Okay.
New Perspectives is 6 mana for an enchantment that draws you 3 cards. If you have 7 cards in your hand, you can pay for cycling costs for 0.
Yeah. I mean, this card is that card's dope, and it's used in a different combo strategy.
Yeah, but I think it doesn't want to be in this deck, or this deck doesn't want it because it can't afford to have another card that isn't doing something.
Yeah, and I don't know how often you're going to have
7
cards
cards
in hand. I mean, I guess, like, again, it draws you 3, so you just have to be sitting around 4.
4. Yeah, well, you have to be sitting at 5, right? Because you've played out New Perspectives.
Right, yes. So you have to be
And
sitting
then drawing 3.
Yeah, so... yeah, it's stuff. I think that's the right call. I think so.
And then, like, the other cards that I'm looking at in this deck are, well, Burbgurgs, Tragic Lesson.
Yeah.
Burbgurgs. Poor Kefnet. Poor fucking Kefnet.
It's the saddest one.
Poor Kefnet's followers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of like, it can either be card advantage, where if you're returning a land to your hand, suddenly you've drawn 3 cards, kind of.
Yeah.
Or it's enabling your discard strategy to Drakehaven.
I never actually... I never thought about this, but this card is Kefnet, though.
Yeah,
You know, because it draws cards and you can choose to return a land kind of thing, which is what his actual card...
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's the final...
Yeah.
It's Kefnet's activated
Yeah,
ability.
and he gives you that one little extra thing because he's... Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got to go.
That's interesting.
Don't look, little brother's going to be back. Big brother's going to be gone for a while.
I'd be interested to see if this card even maybe goes into like the New Perspectives combo.
It might.
Something like that, just to get the cards back up. But
Yeah. Then I'm looking at 3 creatures right now in my 2 slot.
Okay.
And I'm trying to decide between them. Well, actually, no. I've got another creature in my 2 slot, which should probably be fairly clear what it is. It's Baral, Chief of Compliance.
Yeah.
Baral for 1 and a blue is a 1/3 legendary human wizard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's a pretty good ability. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So this guy activates your discard outlets.
Yeah, like I considered putting Baral in this deck as well, but I just like the idea of making them think that I have no creatures and then boarding in for a weird win con.
Yeah, exactly. But, like 1/3s for 2 that do a thing are like my favorite creatures in Magic. I love the 1/3 body. It just terrifies me because I never want to block with them.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
you block a 2/2 and it's like, haha,
Kindled
1
Fury,
damage.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like nobody plays that in Constructed,
Yeah.
right? But maybe this guy saves you a bunch of damage from like Ragavan.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, one of the little guys, right?
Well, yeah, it's so tough seeing him and then seeing your opponent play like Scrap Heap Scavenger or something like that,
and you're just like
being sad.
oh.
But that being said, this guy is a super real card. There's a reason he's in Modern Storm.
Yep.
And he's also a huge dick.
Yeah. In the lore, he's
just a
he's straight up villain.
Anyway, still like abuse Saheeli or no, Saheeli, right? Or is it Chandra?
I think it's Chandra, isn't it? I don't remember anymore.
Either way,
Yeah. So
he's a dick.
there are 4 cards that I'm looking at, or sorry, 3 cards that I'm trying to choose between for a 2 slot because I don't think this deck wants to be playing too many creatures.
Okay.
First one is Seeker of Insight.
Sure.
It is a 1/3 Merfolk looter that can only activate its ability if you cast a non-creature spell this turn. I don't know about that. I don't know.
I mean, it's still kind of like the thing, especially if you're throwing a cycling card into the bin.
Yeah. But it does activate. It does turn on Drakehaven.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
The other one, Shadowstorm Vizier. 1/3 for blue and black. And it gets +1/+1 whenever you cycle or discard a card. The final one I'm trying to decide on is Vile Manifestation. It's an 0/4 for 1 and a black. Vile Manifestation gets +1/+0 for each card with cycling in your graveyard. And it has cycling.
I'm 100% on Team Vile Manifestation.
I think it's the correct one.
This one...
I think it's the correct one.
He just gets bigger and bigger, and 4 toughness is such a big deal.
Absolutely.
In the early game right now.
Yeah, because this blocks, or this doesn't die to a Braid. It can block a lot of things. It dies to Glorybringers.
Yeah.
Fire Breath, basically, right? But who doesn't? I think this is the correct choice. I'm looking for an excuse to put in Shadowstorm Vizier because I think it's a rad card, but I don't think it's in any situation as good as this guy is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's this, and I assume you're going to be running like Hollow One or something like that in here, or were you not?
Hollow One, I think, wants to be in the New Perspectives deck, where it can
just get played for free, essentially.
Yeah, just get played for free, where it's kind of like occupying the Narcomoeba
role
in that deck.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And so like you're essentially trying to fire off on, like, seems like this is a very evasive deck.
Yeah.
In a way. So like you're kind of going in with like Drakes and your Stifle Birds, and yeah, like I mean there's definitely an argument for the Shadowstorm Vizier.
Yeah.
Like I think this is great, like especially coming in the year. Like I mean we talked about Drakehaven and stuff like that. I think it's a super cool card.
Yeah. I mean, it does die to incidental enchantment hate, but Vile Manifestation at least gives you another way to, like, attack.
Yep, he beats a lot of the board wipes, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I could, against my deck, I could Sweltering Suns your board and get rid of all the Drakes, but this guy's still going to stay, and now there's potentially more creatures with cycling, and this is even bigger and bigger. Like, even in Limited, this guy has become, like, a 4/4 or a 5/4 against me. So, I think Vile Manifestation is a super good pick for it.
I'm inclined to agree. Other cards that I'm running, why I want to keep this as a 2-color deck instead of going into 3 for things like, or going into Grixis colors for the tortured.
Tormenting Voice.
Tormenting Voice,
right?
And,
yeah.
All the
Cathartic Reunion.
Yeah, the loot effects in red, not loot effects, the rummage effects in red. Gyre Reach Sanitarium, colorless land. Pay 2, both players draw a card, then discard a card.
Yep.
I think this is neat. I don't know if it's good, but it is a non-interactable way for this deck to pitch cards and make Drakes.
And I mean, if your opponent's played out their hand, now you're just getting rid of stuff off their top deck too. So I've run this card in a lot of the decks that I've played. So I love it.
And like I don't know about this deck. I want it to be good. I'm concerned that it's actually just taking cards from 2 much better decks, where there's probably a pure cycling deck that wants to be running like Hollow Ones, and then probably also things like prized amalgams and like this weird like dredge kind of strategy in Standard, or what Nimble Obstructionist probably wants to be in is in some kind of blue-white flash deck that's playing like
Spell Quellers.
Spell Queller and Avacyn and probably things like Oketra's Monument.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the thing that we've sort of come to, specifically when it comes to like our standard brews and stuff like here, we're trying to give you something that at least is like a primer.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, like we could give you the hottest teamer energy list, or we could give you the hottest blue-red control strategy, but you've seen all these ones, right? So I mean, take both of these and be like, oh, I really like what's going on there, and look at ways to improve. Or even in the if you're watching on YouTube, put it down in the comment section below, like, you know, this might be really helpful or whatever kind of thing. Don't be the kind of person though that's like, it's a mistake to not be running this card in the X thing kind of thing, because that doesn't help, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if I wanted to win F&M,
I would play these top tier decks. That being said, though,
like the best feeling I ever get at F&M is when I get a crowd of people sitting around my table watching my deck.
Yeah, because
like, oh, you actually made that deck? That's sweet.
Yeah,
right?
like it's something different, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, these are two super fun decks that I love. Like and the cycling synergy and whatnot in standard right now is so cool. Like I love it.
And I mean, I'm not going to let a standard season go by where, if it has support for madness and cycling and just like graveyard synergies, there's no way I'm letting that go by without making some kind of terrible brew that just gets its ass handed to it time and time again. Because those are just like some of my favorite mechanics.
The one thing I totally forgot to mention too, for those of you guys who might be building on a budget, my deck is a little bit expensive-ish, I would say, specifically because, for the weirdest reason, Frank Sanity and Hour of Devastation notably so, but Frank Sanity is like one of the most expensive cards in Hour of Devastation.
Really?
It's really weird. It's like, I think it's sitting at somewhere like 5 or 6 tickets or something like that per, which is like super weird. Not super expensive.
Well, I know Cam, Ilian, ATG is playing a similar deck. I don't know what his list is, but he's had some success with it. So I know that this is like picking up steam.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably the most expensive part, like I was saying, is Wandering Fumarals. I play exclusively through Mitgo now, but like those guys cost you around like 12 ticks, I think.
Really?
Per.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, they're quite expensive. That being said, you can totally build this on a budget quite easily and stuff. It's not going to be as expensive as a lot of the top tier decks and stuff. So yeah, I'd say both of these are quite budget if you're looking to get into standard and have some fun. I think mine's like 150 tickets in total, maybe. If not, maybe it's gone down from there. But yeah.
So, like I said, this deck is not together yet, but that's the conceit for it. And I agree, Vile Manifestation is the correct choice. I don't know if I have enough discard enablers, right? And that would be the justification for Seeker of Insight.
Right.
But we'll see what happens and see how it plays out.
I mean, you could always run, if you wanted to do like some sort of extra kind of thing, just run something that enables you to like the easier discard mechanics, like, you know, creatures or stuff like that, like Blood Rage Brawler or whatever. But, I mean, that's obviously not really what your deck is trying to do, but there are a lot of...
Does Blood Rage Brawler block?
It can, yeah.
Oh.
It's just like it's a 4/3 vanilla that just makes you discard a card on playing it. So it's still a pretty real card.
I mean, yeah, like the justification or the argument for going into red is very strong because you get to play things like, well, you know, Tormenting Voice and Cathartic Reunion and Bedlam Reveler.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome in this deck, right? Like Bedlam Reveler, I think, would be really strong. Whereas in black, I think I'll wind up playing things like not Carrie Zev's Expertise, Yeheni's Expertise,
which
as a board wipe.
Yeah, which kind of kills your own things and stuff, which is tough. But I think you can go many ways with it. Is it like that was the thing?
Although, sorry, one last card in black, Collective Brutality.
Yes.
Which is just
it's such a good card.
Like the big sloppy chef kiss for Collective Brutality.
It is also potentially one of the most expensive cards in standard right now, so
because
beware.
It's
a modern
This goes
staple.
into like modern everything, loves this.
But yeah, no, like I mean there's a lot of like my deck could have been mono blue, my deck could have been mono, or it could have been blue black. I think red is super strong right now.
I also think there's probably a compelling argument to go into white with this list.
Yeah.
For things like cast out.
Yeah.
Right, and white has some really, really strong removal right now.
There's a lot of I mean, forcing people to decide between, disenchanting your fraying sanity or a cast out to get like one of their things back is a pretty big choice. So.
But like, I'm definitely leaning towards either blue white or blue black, just for the reason that allows you to play the cycling duels.
Yeah.
Right, like irrigated farmland, or the black one is
Fetid pools.
fetid. Yeah. Something like that, yeah. Fetid something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Island Swamp cycling for 2.
So yeah. So those are our decks. And we've
Yeah.
been going for about an hour and 15,
So,
I think that's a great time.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. So as always, this podcast has been brought to you by you, our viewers, over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Thank you for your direct support of this podcast there. And by our very kind sponsors over at cardkingdom.com. Cardkingdom.com, the shipping is faster than you could ever believe possible. So if you just go to cardkingdom.com/LRR, and they will have all of your singles. If you live inside the United States, you can buy sealed product from them. You can also buy like board games and accessories. And
Their tokens are so good.
Yeah.
Take a look at the Card Kingdom tokens, man.
Yeah, they've got a couple of very talented artists on staff.
Yeah, they're
And
really, really sweet.
If you don't get one of the talented artists, you get some people who have a very good sense of humor as well. It's
We've got friends
delights.
who work there, and they make us silly things.
They're a delightful group of people, and if you are in Seattle, please go check out their brick and mortar stores.
Oh man, I really want to go to Mox.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's such a cool place. I just want to drink and play Magic cards, you know.
Yeah, I know, right?
I actually, as a one-off story, I used to actually be friends with a guy who owned a bar in Edmonton. He was a really big Magic fan. So he would do like pre-release events at the bar.
There was also a place in Calgary that did that.
Oh,
Twin
really?
Cities.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
that was
cool.
actually like that was the premier, well, maybe not the premier event in Calgary, but it was like, it was definitely the great one. You went to the pub on Sunday morning and you had brunch, and
it was super small time. Like I think maybe 10 or 15 people would show up or whatever. But it was super fun to just be like, do you guys want to play Booze Touch? And every time you take a point of damage, you have to take a drink or something like that. It was a lot of fun. It was chilled out.
But cardkingdom.com, they're great people. We wouldn't allow them to support us here if we didn't think that they were a top tier establishment.
Yeah.
So thank you all, and until next week, this has been Tap Tap Concede.
May your draws be awesome.
May your brews be fresh.